What's going on? Welcome to PHNX Cardinals. Bo Brock, Frank Sanders back on the pod today. We're excited about that. Of course, we're presented by DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button underneath us. If it's your first time joining us, you want to be subscribed to PHNX Sports. We've got all the great information, great content coming your way on a daily basis. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe wherever you get the podcast and leave a 5-star review. Thanks for joining us. Say hello in the chat. We'll say hi back. We promise we're going to have this conversation for about 30 to 45 minutes. Frank Sanders, Seth Galina from Pro Football Focus is going to join the program. We got a big show today, and Johnny Venerable's gone, so we're going to have even more fun because the teacher's away. The kids will play, my friend.
Absolutely. You know we're about to get ready to go down, man. You see what my titles say? I want to rock right now. Who named that song?
I want to rock. Is that Scorpions?
Rob Bass. I want to. It's just it's not the song.
Just embarrassing myself.
Yeah, no, already. I embarrass us both. Actually, it's not a title of a song. It's a lyric in the song.
Yeah,
and it's actually it takes two to make a thing go right.
Yeah,
boom.
I want to rock right now. Absolutely. What, Jock Jams Volume 1? I'm all over that.
Jock Jams Volume 1.
So we got a very important question that we got to answer today. Is DeAndre Hopkins, is he still an elite wide receiver? Is he going to be elite when he comes back from his 6-game suspension? We'll get into that conversation. Plus, our guy Seth Galina from Pro Football Focus, he's going to answer whether or not he believes Kyler Murray is a $40+ million a year quarterback. And, first conversation we're going to get into in just a bit is the Arizona Cardinals 2021 NFL draft class was regraded. And if I had to go back to school and then people went back over my grades and regraded me, I'd be a little hesitant as well. But Steve Keim not getting good or high marks at all. Zaven Collins, Rondell Moore, Marco Wilson, guys who are expected to do big things for the Cardinals this season, not getting good grades. We'll get into that, much like myself during my my school tenure. But Frank, first time talking to you this week, and it was yesterday we got the little surprise that Kyler Murray was at OTAs, voluntary OTAs. He was in shorts. He was in his helmet. He was stretching it out. He was dropping dimes out there on the practice field, the facility in Tempe. What do you think about K1 showing up for practice for the first time in 2022?
Absolutely surprised. I mean, I did not expect him to be there. Not for a voluntary camp, definitely mandatory. Someone must have told him, look, your quarterback, man, the backups right now are looking hella good. You might want to make a decision to come down because your job, Colt McCoy right now, is looking fire, brother. If you don't get yourself here right now, I just didn't expect him to be here. I'm glad that he's there. Of course, as a former wide receiver and a player, I would rather throw with my #1 quarterback than the backups any time of the week or any day while we got practice. So for him, I guess he felt like he needed to be here or he was ready to be here. But I'm very surprised that he is there.
Look at the concentration grab just before that by that coach there, man. Just watched it right into his hands. Looked like Frank Sanders out there. I wanted to ask you that because I can't get the answer from myself or Johnny because we didn't play the game at the level that you did, back-to-back 1,000-yard receivers. What kind of boost does it give you as a wide receiver to have your QB1 out there with you in the voluntary times of this?
Well, what happens is you become more settled in the fact that this is the guy that's going to be throwing the ball to me on Sundays or Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. Your rhythm now changes. Now you start to understand his speed and how fast he releases the ball. How does his ball turn? Right-hand quarterback's ball velocity typically goes right to the right side, away from a receiver, and a left-hand quarterback ball, which we don't have any left-hand quarterbacks, but Kyler ball, you get a chance to kind of get a feel of where he's at with it. How does he set? Where's his ball coming from? What angle? And you just become more confident as a new receiver or a veteran receiver, especially in Hollywood Brown. Look, these guys got practice, they got time, but what? Rondell Moore needs time. Trey McBride needs time. Other guys coming out the backfield, they need time to figure out where he's at, how he's letting the ball go. And also another cool thing about it is you get to find out the difference between your starting quarterback and your backup quarterbacks. You really do. What you think is not something that's important, but you find out that if shit hits the fan, and he's not here, Colt McCoy's our quarterback. Right. His ball might be a little softer and smoother, and Kyler has a rocket arm, and I can get out of my break a little bit longer and slower. because I know his ball is going to be there a little more timing wise. So everyone's happy right now that he's there because they know exactly what they have.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to talk to Rondale Moore, the second-year wide receiver, after practice yesterday, and so they said, what's it like to have your QB1 back there? What's his ball like? And he's just like, look, it's great to have a K1 back there. He's improvising. Colt McCoy does a little improvising, but not like Kyler, not at the same level. But it just feels, Kelvin Beachum said it felt like the first day of school. I like what Jordan P. said. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, there is a difference between the way that Kyler delivers the ball and Colt McCoy delivers the ball. Colt McCoy is a guy that's going to try to get the ball out quick, maybe more likely to drop the ball off short yardage plays where Kyler wants to make that big throw downfield. He's so good at it, and it's such a pretty ball. What else do we have up there on the screen, Emma? Put that back up there so I can see what else we're talking about in the chat with our listeners tuning in today. The PHNX Cardinals got Jordan P. What else we have up there? We won't lock down Murphy and Thompson. Teams might snatch them up next season. Look, that's a very talented couple secondary members, some extensions that you have to follow along with Kyler Murray, because they're entering the final year of their contract in 2022. Kiro, what does that say? Keep it up there on the screen for me. This year, it's going to be interesting with Kliff. He has a lot of diverse weapons. He can be used in a lot of ways. We'll see how creative he can get. And Kliff said that yesterday. He was pretty transparent about it, Frank, in his press conference. He said, it's going to be very fascinating. I'm going to lean on my assistant coaches to make sure when people are cussing me out, when DeAndre Hopkins gets back in the lineup, you've got Hollywood Brown, you've got Rondale Moore, you've got Zach Ertz, you've got Trey McBride, you've got James Conner. You got a lot of mouths to feed, and it's not necessarily easy with one football.
It's not, but I tell you what, I agree with the guys in the chat. He does have a lot of great weapons to play with. Last year, they did the exact same thing. They built a good nucleus around the guys. Unfortunately, D-Hops got hurt, so that was the biggest bomb that kind of offset the talent that we had in the first couple of weeks. Look, we were 8-0 before this thing started to crash. 10-2 actually before it started to crash. I like what we have right now. Kliff does have to stand up. He has to be accountable for. He has to realize the talent that he has, and he has to kind of improvise, but not just improvise. He has to make his offense better. That air raid offense has to take on a new dimension. And I'm looking forward to our guest that's coming on, because I got some questions for him in that regards. But I tell you what, this can be a very exciting team. One football doesn't mean anything and if the coach knows how to get the ball out of his hand. And I think one of the guys said something, you said something earlier, of how well the players spoke about what Kyler's able to do that the other guys didn't do. Colt McCoy he's kind of steady. He's Eddie. He does exactly what he's asked to do. But when Kyler gets in there, he's improvising. He's changing the play. He's doing stuff that guys wouldn't necessarily do. That tells you he understands he's number one. He understands that I'm different than you guys. You can't do what I do because I'm K1. And that only proves why he's the guy that's worth whatever he's demanding right now.
Coming from our guy Frank Sanders. Cardinals sin, I see that. There's lots of players not named Hopkins that can – there are a bunch of weapons in this offense. He's absolutely right. As you can tell, we're a little short-handed today. Johnny Venerable with a rare day off. Our Iron Man is in Sin City. He's in Las Vegas, Frank. Probably throwing – just betting his life savings on all sorts of events, but he's not doing it at the sports book. Of course, if you're going to make any bet, you want to do that via the DraftKings Sportsbook app. We've got Game 1 tonight, official sports betting partner of the NBA. You've got the new customers can make any $5 NBA bet and get $150 in free bets instantly. Looking to turn another small bet into a big payday during the NBA Finals with DraftKings Same Game Parlay. You can do just that. This NBA season, the customer placed a $5 same game parlay and won $5,000. What a hell of a payout. Create your own parlay combining multiple bets, which team will win. Total threes made, total rebounds, more, and boom, you got a shot at a bigger payout. Love the parlays because you can take a small amount of money and you can parlay it into a lot of shekels. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code PHNX. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's the promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus, Arizona only. Gambling problem? 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Do we have our guest ready? Is he here?
No, he is not.
We're waiting for Seth Galina
Go
from
back
Pro
to the
Football
chat, though.
Focus.
Look at the comments.
But we do have a couple of questions in the comments.
Yeah, let's do it. We got Kiro here. If the team falls apart down the stretch again, do you think Keim and Kliff will be moved on from considering their extensions? Look,
it'd have to be like really like you'd have to have anarchy. You have to have a mayhem in there, and Kliff had to get caught. Probably Kliff and Keim have to get caught doing something pretty bad on Van Buren in order for those extensions to be swiped away.
And they're cleaning up old Van Buren these days. But look, it would have to be a catastrophe. I mean, this team would have to be like 1-10. You'd have to see a massive regression from a guy like Kyler Murray and the other key young players or stars of this organization for them to just, rip up a 5-year contract extension and say, hey, we're just going to eat that money and have you could go coach elsewhere, be a GM elsewhere, and we'll still pay your contract. It would be a catastrophic event for that to happen. What else we got there in the chat while we wait for Seth Galina? Do you guys feel Hollywood is enough? Last year when D-Hop went out, we sucked. Absolutely you did. Does Hollywood take the place of D-Hop knowing that he dropped a lot of balls last season? Here's the thing I'll say about Hollywood's drops last season is he was getting balls delivered, not Lamar Jackson down the stretch, but it was Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback there for Baltimore, and he's not exactly the most accurate passer. So I don't think Marquise Brown was getting the best options. He was getting a bunch of targets. As far as the balls and targets that he saw, he didn't ring them in. He was actually in lower in the league as far as those numbers go. So you want to see, I think you'll see that rise with Kyler Murray, but I'm not too concerned about the drops because I think he's got the speed, he's got the rapport with Kyler Murray to where you might not see a whole lot of like tight coverage on Hollywood Brown, Frank.
It changes the narrative, man. I agree with you 100%. Guys, I swear to God, the first string quarterback, there is a massive drop off from the first string quarterback to the second string and anybody else following that. We've seen that with the Arizona Cardinals. We watched Colt McCoy last year. A couple of games he did good, but once he got hurt, and our next backup our third string backup we brought in, the play was it was drastic difference. So I agree that, look, Tyler Huntley is no Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson is no Kyler Murray. And so that in itself will let you know that I think he makes a difference. Again, D-Hop's at one time caught about 1,400 yards for us. I think in his first year here with the Cardinals. Guess what? JV did a great job of asking the question, can HB do 1,300 yards? I absolutely see that. That's only 80 yards a game, brother. So that in itself says that I expect him to both of them, when both of them get a chance to play together, you will see how explosive the offense can be.
Yeah, I agree. And then not only do you have, Hollywood Brown, I think the addition of Trey McBride gives a boost to the tight end room, and another year with Zach Ertz. Look, it was brutal what happened down the stretch, especially in the red zone. Close. Kyler Murray wasn't good enough, and the weapons weren't good enough, and the scheme wasn't good enough for them to really do what they did with DeAndre Hopkins on the field. But anytime you take that type of weapon out of any offense, it's going to struggle. But to struggle as mightily as they did was unfortunate for the Cardinals, and they were just a different team. Let's bring on our guest from Pro Football Focus, Seth Galina. Joins us. Seth, thank you so much. You're joining myself, Bo Brock, and Frank Sanders on PHNX Cardinals. How's it going, my man?
I'm good. I got a standing desk. So for those watching, I'm standing right now. So this is a new thing for me.
All right, man. Okay. That productivity is going to be on the rise with that standing desk if those commercials are correct.
Please. Are you on a treadmill? Are you got a standing bet going on?
Standing desk.
Oh, I got you. Oh, that's right. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too.
Seth, I was just kind of stalking your Twitter account before we had you on, doing my research, and I saw this where you had different tiers of different quarterbacks, and obviously we're talking Kyler Murray. We've got the old but still good Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. You've got the elite youth, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, not great golfers, but hell of a quarterbacks, that duo. And then you've got the clearly good but polarizing group. That's where Kyler Murray falls with Dak Prescott and Derek Carr. I think I hear what you're saying with the polarizing, but can you explain a little bit more to our audience?
Well, I think polarizing They're the guys I think we talk about in the media a lot in terms of, are they good? Are they not good? Nobody knows. And I wanted to make it clear that they're really, really good quarterbacks. But obviously, when we look at those guys in the other tiers, especially if we're comparing Kyler and Dak, who are still under 30, compared to the ones that I put who are in the kind of a tier above them in the under 30 category, those guys just don't tend to not have a lot of bad games, or they've had seasons where they're the MVP, like Lamar Jackson, who's had some inconsistencies, but still, we have a season where he's the MVP. So I think just putting Kyler and Dak in that category makes the most sense to me. But again, I really wanted to be clear that these are two, if they're not elite, they're just under elite quarterbacks, but obviously have consistency issues. And we know that about Kyler. We wouldn't be talking about this if he didn't have these consistency issues, if the offense didn't have the consistency issues, especially late in the year, that we've seen the past few years.
Hey, tell me when you say you got Derek Carr in that same package, and obviously they consider him one of the most elite quarterbacks. I like the term you use, polarizing, because he gets a lot of heat. But what do you think about his play and also them adding Devontae Adams? Will that take him out of that? Will that take him out of that box?
It's possible. I think he is where he is at this point in his career. Hard to change at this point. He is going to get a new, offensive scheme. Bringing the Patriot stuff. Josh McDaniels, obviously, he's done some good stuff over the years with other good quarterbacks, obviously. But I do think you kind of are who you are now. Does having that type of playmaker with you, who can really run any route tree at any depth, take your bubble screens, take your RPOs, take your bubble screens, take your 6-yard hitches, take your sticks, but then also take your posts, take your back shoulders and all that stuff. So like having that while also still having, pretty good receiving core, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, and those type of guys. So I think that adds to what the offense can do, but I'm not sure that Derek Carr changes fundamentally just because Devontae Adams is there, who happened. Yes, he is like, a tier 1 wide receiver, but I don't know if he changes, the quarterback changes fundamentally.
With the slapping the polarizing label on Kyler Murray, and I don't disagree with it, still plenty to prove at this time in his career, but he's staring down making $40+ million a season. That's not even a question of whether or not you pay that, correct? If you're the Arizona Cardinals, you have to pay. If you draft a quarterback and you've seen what you've seen from Kyler Murray, the next step is just giving him that big fat extension, correct?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that with his skill set, obviously it's been a weird situation with him in terms of as the seasons have gone on within each season, you've seen the play kind of become a little more erratic. And obviously, losing your top receiver by the end of last year doesn't help. But it's been a weird coincidence. We're getting to a point where maybe it's not a coincidence anymore because we also have the Kliff Kingsbury history. But regardless, to me, it's still a weird coincidence. But I do think with his skill set, he's a guy that we've seen it. He can go on heaters because he has the arm talent. He has the legs. I think he does understand, his processing is very, very good. I think the issue there with Kyler Murray is kind of the same issue you get with a guy like Russell Wilson, which is like he just does not target the middle of the field, most likely because of his height, right? I mean, we just say it, like most likely because of his height. I thought he did good things early in the season when they went on that winning streak and had a very good record at the beginning of the season, targeting the intermediate middle of the field, and then it can just dry up with him. And I think if that's usually not there, if you're going on a kind of streaky run of games where the legs aren't happening, and obviously he has elite scrambling ability, but it's still a thing that's not always going to be there every game because it's such it's like an unsustainable thing week to week, season to season, even almost. So that's the issue with Kyler, where the skill set is there, the elite ability is there, but so much of his game is streaky. And again, I could say the exact same thing about Russell Wilson. So much of his game is streaky that you're seeing these results by the end of the season. But the flip side is well, if you're getting streaky on one side, you can get streaky on the other side. And if you get streaky later in the season and your number one receiver doesn't go down, which really kills the offense based on how they want to align their receivers and stuff, you get hot in the playoffs, you're talking about a Super Bowl, right? So to go all the way back, yes, you pay him $40 million.
Yes, you pay him $40 million. Real quick, hey Seth, you've studied a lot of teams, and of course you studied the Cardinals. You got some great comments you make, and there's words you use tactfully when it comes to this air raid type offense. I'm not even going to ask you about I'm not even going to ask you about Kliff and the offense. I'm not going to do that. A prediction of what do you think our season will look like, and what do you think our record will be at the end of the year? Considering, and I know you saw our schedule, what do you think this looked like for the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I still think this is a playoff team. I think the defense, in certain aspects of it, can't be as bad as it was last year. Sometimes it's just impossible to be as bad in certain areas. And again, it's like another year in the same offense. Mm-hmm. Again, do I have issues with that offense? Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well, I'll give you a good example. It's just and the Hopkins thing, his injury is the best example of my issues with the offense, because he goes down and other teams can find a way to maneuver their offense around not having a number one receiver. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but their issue, because they line on the same side all the time, because they don't move around, you're running the same offense. You're running the same offense, but you're just putting Antoine Wesley instead of the best receiver in the league. Like I'd say that's a problem, right?
This guy's studying. This guy's studying, baby. So he studies, He studies.
So like that to me, and then again down the stretch, what do you see? You see, well, all of a sudden, all those same targets have to go to a lesser receiver. And I would even argue that I didn't even think Antoine Wesley was a bad receiver. It's just like he's not freaking Diop. Like that's the best receiver in the league. So like that to me, and I think Kliff has started to figure things out. Like, hey, maybe we can do a little more. Maybe we can move people around. And I certainly understand how that offense works, where they're saying, okay, well, we're going to line up in these formations and we're not going to move guys around. And we have enough concepts where if you're going to do this, we have enough concepts that we can go and attack your weaknesses. That was the idea from the air raid back in the day in college. We're talking about a different level now. Mm-hmm. So I think that him kind of finding his way, are we going to see more two tight ends on the field because of what they've done in the free agency and the draft? Maybe. That would change the offense kind of a lot. Are we going to see more play action out of it from condensed sets, getting crossing routes, all that stuff? Like, I think this is a big year for Kliff. Clearly, I mean, they have to have a winning record, or else he's not going to be there for 2023. But I think it's a big year for him to see how he's adjusted now. What is it, third or fourth year in the NFL now? Figuring out how his offense, his ideas can work at an NFL level.
Yeah, let's see that question from our audience here. Cardinal Sin, do you believe Kliff is on the hot seat? I mean, he just signed a fat 5-year contract extension, but we know how the NFL is. It's a what have you done for me lately league. I mean, if they come out and they regress for the first time under K2, do you really believe he's on the hot seat and could be fired?
You know, it's a weird situation because it's like we talk about them like they were the worst team in the league.
Right.
They made the playoffs last year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but obviously you got run out of town in the playoff game. The down the stretch was bad. Down the stretch the year before was bad. Like I said, every year with Kliff Kingsbury, down the stretch is bad. So it is a fine line here, but I kind of think that if they don't make the playoffs, and it's, like I said, I do believe they'll make the playoffs, but I really think if they don't make the playoffs, this might be the end.
Great insight. Seth Galina from Pro Football Focus. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at PFF_Seth. Seth, we look forward to more great work from yourself and hopefully some updated quarterback tiers by this time next year. And Kyler Murray's in the elite group.
Hey, man, that's not up to me to decide. I let the chips fall as they may. And I'm just a vessel, right? I'm just a vessel.
Just a vessel. We appreciate it, man. Thank you for bringing your vessel to the program. PHNX Cardinals, Seth Galina.
Thanks.
Incredible stuff. Frank, pretty surprising to hear his thoughts on Kliff Kingsbury, that if they just falter even the slightest, if they go 8-9, It's sayonara K2.
Hey man, look, he said some stuff that's just it's obvious stuff he said that's on the table, and that's just from a receiver standpoint. Offensively, the offense has to evolve, and he started out great. That's what allowed us to get to 8-0 for a long period of time. That's why I have this K2 tattoo on my wrist, on my freaking forearm, because it was so amazing that we could go in San Francisco 49ers and beat them with a backup quarterback and a backup receiver and not have Chandler Jones or some of our starting players. And I thought that was amazing, but down the stretch it was bad. So that, to me, I'm surprised to hear him say that, knowing that Kliff has a long-term contract. That's very surprising. Of course, that was several questions that was asked in the comment section. Thank you guys, because you guys are on it, and you brought it right to the table. To an outsider. He's in Canada, and to know that he's paying attention to the Cardinals at that level, that he feels that what we saw in the signing of Kliff Kingsbury does not mean that is the totality of keeping him if he doesn't grow. And I'm okay with that, because I think that lets you know that that's part of the business, Bo.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Kliff Kingsbury, he signed on with the Arizona Cardinals right at the end of his 30s. So he's in his early 40s, still a young coach and not a finished product. And I think he's done a good job in adjusting. I think, a couple weeks into his first year, he kind of became, he got away from the air raid, became more of a run-heavy offense. And he's had some good adjustments. And then, like his time at Texas Tech, he continues to fall short at the end of the season. There's the infamous graphic out there, dating back to 2013, how he finishes, the rest of the year, games 1 through 7, 42, 20, and 1. And then the rest of the year, he's 16 and 43, just not getting it done. He's got to prove that that's not who he is, that he can continue to evolve and develop as a head coach. Otherwise, he might be who he is. That's what, the main fear of this Cardinals fan base is that Kliff is exactly, to steal Denny Green, is who we thought he was, right? And that would be tragic for the Arizona Cardinals, because the experiment of coupling him with Kyler Murray has been pretty successful so far through 3 seasons. It's heating up outside, of course. COVID-19 vaccines, something that if you're mingling with more people out there, they're free, and for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also eligible for the booster. Visit azhealth.gov for location near you. Visit azhealth.gov/vaccine for a location near you. So he mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, how the Arizona Cardinals offense suffered without D-Hop in the lineup. And, the title for our show is DeAndre Hopkins, still elite wide receiver. And a lot of Cardinals fans will probably just say, get the F out of here. DeAndre Hopkins is elite. He's one of the top wide receivers in the league. Our guy Seth called him the top receiver in the league. Pro Football Focus giving him a lot of love lately, Frank Sanders. I saw this come up on my IG scroll lately. Top 10 wide receivers per Anthony Treesh. Number 1, new Raiders wide receiver Devontae Adams. Cooper Kupp, who is the wide receiver Triple Crown winner. Put some respect on his name. How is he number 2 after that year? And then DeAndre Hopkins, after kind of a down year, battling injuries, hamstring, knee injury, surgery, now suspension, still number 3, still getting that respect, Frank.
Yeah, you know what? I'm disappointed in the graphic in itself, and I agree with you on that. Definitely, in my opinion, my number 1 pick would be Cooper Kupp. Again, and I'm going to state this with the fact that, number 1, he is and have been able to produce across the board. Last year was absolutely phenomenal of a receiver display. They knew exactly what they was doing, and they couldn't stop him no matter what. I'm following him with Jamar Chase. I'm looking at these 2 guys, the 2 quarterbacks that they have rapport with. Jamar Chase had over 18. Jamar Chase had just a little bit shy of 1,500 yards. And I think that, to me, man, is pretty spectacular for a rookie coming into the NFL to get to find a button on a. I don't expect him to find a Baker Mayfield button anytime soon. I think he's definitely on the rise. But to have DeAndre Hopkins back, I think when I say number 3. DeAndre Hopkins, guys, just listen to the stats of DeAndre Hopkins. He had 789 catches. That's his total right now. But he had a little bit more than 600 catches, a little bit shy of 8,700 yards, and 62 touchdowns when he was in Houston. And that's with Deshaun Watson. His 2 years here, he had about 145 catches, a little bit shy of 1,900 yards. And that to me just tells you exactly how great, and 14 touchdowns. That's in 2 years, and that's 1.5 years, Bo. How about this? I believe he's the number 3 receiver in the league as long as he has Kyler Murray. He's proven to be great with somebody else, but definitely number 3 in the league as long as he has Kyler Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up the Houston numbers because they're important, because he's earned that respect, just like his predecessor with the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald, a guy that just earned that respect and was continuously at the top of these lists. And DeAndre Hopkins is no different, despite the knee injury, coming off of surgery, and then of course the suspension coming up. The expectation is, and if it happens, if it comes to fruition, if DeAndre Hopkins is absolutely continues to be the truth, this is going to be a team that isn't going to falter at the end of the year, because you're going to have Nuke Hopkins for 11 games, and he's going to be motivated. I'm sure he's going to have a chip on his shoulder because they levied this suspension against him, because it sounds like he didn't do anything different that we know of. And he's going to be motivated to make some big waves when he returns from the ban.
DeAndre's going to try to figure out how to get 1,000 yards, period.
Yeah.
1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. And he might need to do that with probably about 70 catches, which isn't impossible. So look for him to come out. And like I said, I agree with you, to be on a tear, man, because this guy wants to prove that he's the best receiver in the league. And of course, that means if he does well, we get to the playoffs. And he gets to the playoffs, that puts Kyler in a good position in order to, again, that puts us all in a great position. So to me, I think that I like him at number 3. I have no problem with him. Here's the beautiful thing about this is that many receivers right now with the medical science that's out there and the technology right now, Bo, the guys are recovering, but they're not having that dilemma they used to have back in the days when I was there. And what was the question that guys they was concerned about? Can he mentally get over the hump of seeing that he can go out and play, because his knee doesn't feel 100%? Let me tell you something. You can look at the list of the guys that have been hurt in the last 10, 12 years, and they've come back and absolutely been effective for the teams that they've been on.
Yeah, I see Cardinals send, and look, there are so many similarities between what's going on, the age, but DeAndre Hopkins is under contract a few more years than P2 was. It is scary, just because it wasn't that long ago. It was just a few seasons ago where we saw the same kind of thing happen to Patrick Peterson. He became, he wasn't the same player when he came back after being popped for PEDs or violating the PED policy for the NFL. Which is concerning, but I just see them as very different players. Two guys that played at the highest level. I don't want to take anything away from Patrick Peterson at all. It's just when he came back, he wasn't the same player. And DeAndre Hopkins also coming back from that knee surgery, but he's going to be able to be worked back into this offense. But I don't think he's going to be like, hey, just ease me in. He's like, I'm the guy, I'm the man, and I'm coming back, and I'm gonna retake that role. I don't care about Hollywood Brown. I respect him. He's my teammate. I respect Rondell Moore if he takes a leap this season. Zach Ertz and Trey McBride. Who cares? I'm DeAndre Hopkins. I'm Nook. Give me the football. Let's do this thing. He had 8 touchdowns on 8 catches in the red zone. That's where he makes his money, in the red zone, and he's gonna be able to do it beyond that. It's exciting to think about. Stop by your local dispensary, grab some amazing scratch-made THC gummies from our friends over at OG's. Different flavors like blackberries, cream, watermelon. Perfect if you're in the mood for an uplifting sativa or just to chill. Frank's favorite edible? Ask him about it. What's your favorite edible?
Orange creamsicle, bro. That's
orange creamsicle from OG's brand. Absolutely.
It does.
It's like the ice cream truck rolling through your neighborhood. You go out and mom gives you a 5 spot. You're the king of the world. You can get that orange creamsicle. No, you don't have to do that any longer because you're an adult. You don't chase down the ice cream man. You go to OG's. You want to learn more about OG's, their amazingly delicious variety of flavors, go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com. I see some people complimenting my shirt. Thank you very much. This is a PHNX Cardinals original. You can get this PHNXLocker.com. We got all the good swag there, and it's not much. This is just this is a football, a cardinal with a menacing growl on its face, and a cactus. What else? I mean, that encapsulates everything. It's Cardinals football right there. You want this, go to PHNXLocker.com. Also, check out the rest of the gear that we have there. Go PHNX.com. Also, become a member of the family, and you'll either get a free t-shirt from PHNX Locker or your first month for just 50 cents just for signing up. It's time to redefine what it means to be an Arizona sports fan. It's time to go PHNX.com. All right, last little topic we're going to bring up here. We were going to get to this earlier, but we were joined by Seth Galina. So Pro Football Focus, who Seth works for, they put out a regrade of the 2021 draft, which was Zaven Collins, Rondell Moore. Here it is. Initial draft grade was a B-, but after a full season, they got a C-, barely passing. I saw a lot of C- during my school years. This is easily one of the harshest regrades in the entire draft, they said. When your first and second rounders barely even see the field on a roster filled with holes, that's an issue. Zaven Collins and Rondell Moore managed 220 and 431 snaps, respectively, last fall, while Marco Wilson exceeded expectations for playing time perspective, but for a fourth rounder, it was out of necessity, not competency, as he earned a 52.9 overall grade. So, look, harsh regrade, but I ain't panicking, Frank.
I'm not panicking, but I know for a fact it's the conversation that Johnny yells at us all the time. And why isn't Zaven Collins playing? And oh my God, Marco Wilson, he is great. We got to re-sign Marco Wilson immediately. And he's been the belle of the ball. He's definitely been a surprising fourth round pick. I agree 100% with that conversation on Marco Wilson. But I also agree exactly with the grade when it comes to Zaven Collins and Rondell Moore. Two players that was not used and not even figured out how to be used in the offense or on the defensive side. 6'3", 6'4", 245 pound middle linebacker, outside linebacker. You can easily make him an edge rusher. Something has to change when you feel like you're not playing your first round draft pick. So that grade to me, man, honestly, I'm okay with it. It doesn't still tell the fact that the team was 10-2 or the team had finished and gotten to the playoffs with the talent that they had, and those guys were not significant impacts. So just imagine what those guys will be when they become significant impacts. And that, to me, will definitely probably be flipped in about a year or so, or at the end of next year. They'll say, look, they'll change the conversation, Bo, about Zaven Collins, as well as they'll change it about Rondell Moore, hopefully.
Jose agrees 100%, and I agree 100%. Some great points from our guy Frank Sanders. And here's the thing. Absolutely. The grade is what it is. Like, that's the performance. That's what it yielded. You get this bad grade, C-, because it's C- work. It doesn't mean that the next test, you can't ace it. And as far as this draft class is concerned, when they regrade it in 2023, at this time next offseason, I think that a guy like Zaven Collins can completely change the perspective of this draft class. He's a guy that yesterday we had defensive coordinator Vance Joseph say that it's him and Isaiah Simmons. He said it's their time. They're betting on those guys. Number 9 and number 25 are going to be big players for this defense next year, and it can change how people view this draft class. Also, Rondell Moore, same thing was brought up from Kliff Kingsbury, his play caller. He said, look, Rondell Moore was not happy with his playing time last year. We know that. We've got the role, we've got an idea what his role is going to be. And it's going to be kind of filling in where Christian Kirk left in that slot position. He's going to be running a lot of slot routes. Now, let's keep those receipts, because those are the two guys that are going to be the one calling the shots. If they don't see playing time, is it on Kliff Kingsbury and Vance Joseph, or is it on the players?
I'm a back up, and I'm just going to say I think it's on the players. Mm-hmm. And I will say this here, though, guys. Let's just be honest. You're a young rookie walking into, if you're Zaven Collins, you walk into your defensive room, and just listen. Tell you from experience the shock of walking games with, and that you idolize. And I can see why Rondell Moore, you walk into an AJ Green, 10,000 yards in NFL with 6 or 7 Pro Bowls, and then you got DeAndre Hopkins, Mr. Webb himself already, you just know he just catches everything out of the sight. Right. So, and then you walk in, you got Christian Kirk. Where do you see yourself playing? It's just hard to kind of rationalize and put that into perspective. Zaven Collins walks in, Jordan Hicks, J.J. Watts, Chandler Jones, Buda Baker, and you're thinking like, I'm from Utah. Although I'm a first-round draft pick, and right. Jordan Hicks, that happens. And then we threw Isaiah Simmons in there, man, because he had to play. It wasn't because he was ready to play. He had to play. So I look at that from that perspective. I'm expecting these guys to ball out this year, and I'm expecting them to step up and answer the bell. Jordan, this could have been the best thing for a lot of those guys, because now they got a chance to learn how to spend money, how to be an NFL player, Bo. How to handle yourself how to handle yourself when you're not the starter, how to deal with the media. These guys, only person out of this group that really came from a top tier is your boy that won the national championship, and that's Isaiah Simmons. So in reality, a lot of these guys still got to figure out how to be an NFL player and what that feels like. And so sometimes our guys digress. They digress instead of really being aggressive to the call. And that's why Jordan Hicks still won the middle linebacker job over Zaven, because he's a veteran.
Yeah.
He knows what to do. Super Bowl champ, all those things on the table. So I expect those guys to be absolutely fabulous this year and very impactful offensively and defensively.
Bo, Marco got to go to those camps, would sleep and dream about OBJ. OBJ owned Wilson last season. Look, Odell Beckham did that to a lot of people have nightmares about Odell Beckham Jr. Marco Wilson, 4th round pick out of Florida. He is absolutely just toolbox as far as what he's got in the skill set. 43.5 vert, sub 4.40. He's got good size. He looked good yesterday. Everybody looks good in shorts, but Marco Wilson stood out yesterday when I was out at OTAs. I'm excited about him. And let's keep this in mind. They put up what his grade was for Pro Football Focus, 52.9. Not great. You don't need a grade to tell you that he didn't finish strong. But keep in mind, Byron Murphy, his first season had a 48.3 grade. And he's developed. And Steve Kimes, as much as you want to – what's that?
I say it matters, but we didn't have our D line like we normally have. And I think that's the challenge. Sometimes, look, the secondary is based upon your defensive line. If you have a good defensive line, getting pressure to the quarterback, making your job a little bit easier, that's why you hope you get a good defensive line. And honestly, guys, I tell you what, if this defensive line put some good stuff together, I'm not concerned about our secondary. I just hope our defensive line can do their job to help protect those guys.
Yeah. And we learned today that the Cardinals family is growing. JJ Watt, his wife, Kaylee, they announced that they're pregnant. They're due in October. JJ Watt is going to become a father for the first time, I believe. Frank, when did you start your family in the NFL?
It was my 5th year. It was my 5th year. Both of my, watch this, guys. It was my 5th year, and it was on my off weekend that she got pregnant. And then Anaya A1, she's on one off weekend in the following year. See how dedicated I was to the game of football? I could only be intimate on the off weekend. That was the only time. I'm just playing.
You're married to the game. Absolutely.
5 years later, bro, I had my first child.
Unbelievable. It's a special time for the Watts, and of course it was a special time back then for the Sanders. Those kids are a little bit more grown now than Watts. His is coming in October. My kid turns 1 in a month. It's unbelievable how time flies. I'm concerned about JJ because I know how crazy it is, but I think he's got the family, friends and family set up, the infrastructure there. Plus, he's set up pretty well financially as well. I think he'll be all right. I think he and the missus are all right as far as bringing in their first kid at his age.
This would be so exciting for him, man. I'm excited for him. I know it will be a little distractions to him because he's going to try to be all in, and he's going to try to be all hands on deck father. He's going to be up trying to get the milk and let mama, you go to sleep. I'll be up there. I'll feed the baby. I'll pat him. I'll put him back to sleep. I'll put her back to sleep from that standpoint. So he's going to be all in on the process, but he's a veteran. He's a pro. Another good thing, Bo, is that they don't have to practice the same way. They don't have to go to work every day like you do. You have to go to work every day. If you can stay home and only have to show up on Fridays, then that would be great. But that's not the process. So hope it will work well for him. And I agree with you. He already has a family base to make sure all goes well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And JJ Watt, I'm sure he doesn't do anything half-assed. He's going to be a great father. It's exciting. She's going to be a great mother. Excited for the Watts, and we're excited for everybody that joined us today on PHNX Cardinals. Thanks for joining on the chat. Big shout out to Emma behind the scenes, doing great work as our producer. Johnny Venerable, hopefully he's taking some well-deserved time off, enjoying everything that Sin City has to offer. Make sure, that's right, he's two-handing, chugging all down the Vegas Strip, Frank. Poorly representing us at PHNX Cardinals, but you represented today, Emma, Frank, and of course all the viewers and listeners out there. Hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe there, leave a 5-star review, and a 5-star rating and review. Big helps us out big time, or follow us on Spotify. Thanks for checking us out. We'll be back with a fresh episode of PHNX Cardinals tomorrow on Friday. We're going to wrap up the week strong.